Welcome to the Good Keyboard Friends podcast. This is episode 3 of 69. This is canon. There will be 69 episodes in season 1. We are here with Pontus, also known as Rontus, also known as the man who designs big keyboards. I'm joined today by James and Tangus, and of course, Ponty.
Hello.
Ponty.
I'm Pontus. Or Rontus.
Hello, nice to meet you. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you all.
Hugh is on vacation this week, but we got our Danish friend.
The terrible keyboard friend indeed.
Hello, Tangus. Would you like to introduce yourself, since given this is your first episode?
Given that I was one of the co-hosts that decided to bail on you all the last minute. Not 100% sure what there is to say about myself. Been in the
Beige
keyboard
enjoyer?
I do greatly enjoy beige.
That's kind of hot. What else do you like? Do you like big keyboards? Do you like small keyboards? What are you into?
I think it's best to describe it. Like, I do have quite a good collection of vintage boards. Not a great per se. Like, it's not valuable by any means, but I do enjoy them greatly. As far as I do enjoy classic buckling spring boards. I finally
SSK.
bit the bullet and just decided to get my SSK, but other than that, I've been enjoying my AT boards for years.
Based.
So
Very hot.
that was also my gateway into the hobby here. 10,
Okay.
13, a little.
Nice.
I do have
All
to
right.
do some head calc.
Yep, I think I'm going to
Back in
introduce our...
2013.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to introduce our good keyboard friend of this week, which is Pontus. I'm sure you all have been seeing some keyboards pop up recently, and it's made by none other than our good friend Pontus. Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah. We thought we'd get you on before the run sort of comes online and sort of talk to you about
before he becomes big and famous and he's too busy
Yes,
to talk to
indeed.
us. He's too busy buying his second
yacht.
No, the McLaren. Okay, yeah, I
McLaren.
forgot what the raw
okay.
McLaren was.
Koenigsegg.
Koenigsegg. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
That's
Swedish.
pretty cool.
But do you get the McLaren before or after the ice cream machine?
Well, you need the McLaren to move the ice cream machine.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think I'll get the ice cream machine first though, because it's getting hot here.
For people
Sweet
that
treats.
For people that don't know you, Pontus, can you give us like a... Actually, let's make this interesting. Give me a speedrun any percent of every board you've designed in chronological order, whether or not released. You just have to say the names in order. Go.
Oh, Lily 58 case, Plague TKL, Grommet Mount 60, Plateless Turned Plated FRL, Pontus TKL, Pontus Unsaver aka 21XX, I think that's everything I've gotten made, but then other than that I mostly make renders. That's
You're the kind of
probably the
people that
reason
render
you're-
baits other people,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
I make the renders that people use to exit scam, so that people fall for them more easily. So if you recognize my name, that's probably why. I've done a lot of renders for Canon keys and a lot of small craters.
Very
yeah.
cool. So talk to us about like how you got into the keyboard hobby, right? You named a lot of the keyboards you designed, but like what was your first mechanical keyboard that you actually got or bought from somewhere?
My first mechanical keyboard, it was a Ducky 12 TKL that I bought in 2019, I think. Early 2019. So that's kind of when I got into the hobby.
You bought a Ducky board in 2019.
Yeah,
Wow.
January.
Was it like a special one? Because like they do special editions, right?
It was the year of the wolf or whatever dog.
Oh, okay, so not
the
the
one
good
with
one.
No, not a good one. It was pretty awful. So I quite quickly bought a DC60 with a little case and some alias switches, I think they're called. and EPBT caps as my first custom a few months later.
Oh, so you got like right deep into it then, sort of, kind of.
At that time, that was what was the easiest to get.
I mean,
Yeah.
2019. I mean, back then we had like decent accessibility. We had things like the HIV 60, which is the dumbest name, but it's like the cheapest 60% you can build off of Taobao, and it's like back in the day it was like $45 or $50. Nowadays you can get like, I mean, we've seen the $11 keyboard kit that I was so sure was a scam until people bought it. They're like, Simon, it's real.
Yeah. No,
But yeah,
yeah.
you did pretty good.
That
I
was a
thought I
plastic
did
custom,
well.
right? The HIV 60.
Oh yeah, it was
HIV?
real cursed. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think I've owned one too. Back in the day.
No, but
Yeah,
after that, at DC60, I quite quickly bought or got into the ergo mech scene as well.
Oh, really?
Very briefly, and bought a corn as my like first big soldering project. A few months after the DC60.
And this
Can you-
was
can you guys-
corn with surface mount or through hole or
It was one of the like earliest ones with the Elite C or Pro Micro, and it was hot swap only back then, I think.
did you have
So
to put the
SM
sockets on?
Someone had soldered the sockets, but I had to solder the LEDs, the like
Okay.
RGB ones, and failed miserably.
Yeah, surface mount is not fun.
No, and I didn't have any good soldering equipment. I had like the cheapest iron you could get with no temperature control and unleaded solder.
Oh baby,
yeah.
the Home Depot special. Well, I guess out of the US it'd be the hardware store special.
Biltema
Around-
Special.
Yeah, exactly. Biltema. That's the thing. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Basically, what's the Canadian? Princess Auto. What's the American one you have? The Home Depot?
AutoZone.
Yeah, AutoZone. Basically, it's the same thing.
Go to shop for everything.
So enlighten me a little bit. What is a corn?
It's this small Japanese ergo keyboard. It has 42 keys, I think, and it's a split. Super cheap.
Oh,
it's
okay.
very, very popular,
I
or
have
used
one,
to
like,
be.
right behind me. I'll show you, James,
Oh,
if you don't
yeah.
know it.
Nice. So you got like right into the ergonomic
I
scene.
presume most everybody listening is
Oh,
going to be
okay.
listening to an audio-only episode, but this is just for James, so he can see what a corn looks like.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
so it's
basically
like
that.
it's like a Batman keyboard, sort of. Ish.
Yeah.
And it's a split, like
Yeah,
only
it's
PCB?
like
Yeah.
it's a real cheap like. This is how you get into ergo, basically. Kit.
Okay.
They start
They
at
were-
like $30. It's not bad.
Yeah, they
It's
were
the
super
thing-
popular.
Yeah, it's the thing that I see in a lot of Japanese meetups that they start with and then build crazy shit on top of it, right? It's like the bare bones.
I mean,
sort of-
internationally, I'd agree with you, but Japan is wild. Generally, Japanese hobbyists will just design it from the ground up and be like, haha, I 3D printed this and then hand wired it over the course of 1,800 hours. It uses capacitive touch everywhere and has a 7-axis joystick. Also, it's 3 centimeters wide. Have fun.
It also cooks your dinner and is waifu themed.
Well, no.
Rarely, no.
The wife cooks the dinner, okay? That's Japan, sir.
Okay, well, I guess we can move on from mechanical keyboards. Okay, well, I'm curious. Like, what is your first proper enthusiast, like, good keyboard kit that you got?
Oh. I think it was an AKB Rain, if you guys know what that is. It's made by James, the other James,
UK
from
James.
UK James.
Mm-hmm.
I think it ran in like either 2019 or 2018.
Okay.
But I bought it secondhand for super cheap. It's a super cursed / interesting board. Super basic, but the layout, I can, wait.
Do you still
I
have
don't
it?
Yeah, I can show it once again.
Nice. Well, the audio listeners are gonna have a great time. We're gonna have
Oh,
to
yeah.
describe everything.
No, it's fine. See, what we can do is we can make it
Yeah.
so people have to pay for the video.
Oh God, what is that?
Oh, that
Okay,
is
so
like
it's like a 40% take on a CP, basically.
it's like an 1800 with FRL ish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the alpha cluster looked a little bit smaller than usual.
Yeah, it's missing 2 columns,
yeah.
which made it unusable for me because I
why is that?
type Swedish.
Just
Why
40%
would,
stuff.
Oh,
it's
it's-
not.
it's
It has a
actually a
number and
40%.
everything.
Mm.
It's we don't talk about it.
Okay.
Oh, so they went numro, but then killed columns instead of rows. Huh.
Yeah. So it's basically
James,
the same
take some
size.
notes here.
It's like a 65% in width.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah,
so
as
it
opposed-
looks like
Yeah, as
it looks
opposed
like
to
an
a TKL in width.
1800, but then
Yeah, the
if you
bezels
look
are
closely.
big.
Okay. Well, that's a very interesting mechanical keyboard.
Yeah, and that was I bought it from Glarses back
Oh.
when he was around.
Oh,
Uh,
Oh.
that's great.
yeah. So it has some interesting history. I think it has had like 5 owners before me, and
You know,
Oh,
those are the
okay.
best fucking keyboards. Makes me think of my Duck Viper that I think I was like the 4th owner of, and like have since sold it. So now it's got like a 5th or 6th owner. But the thing is still it's on original. When I last had it, it was still on its original Duck PCB, which the chances of that are 0. Like it had been desoldered like a good like 12 or like 15 times, but it came all banged up. I got it from Max F. We did a trade for an M65 that I had built with some wild nonsense switches that he was super into. But when I got the Viper, holding a board in your hand, that like I looked at it and I was kind of disappointed because like it had way more scratches and dings than I expected. But then over time, I'm like, no, I understand. Like, you know, this board has gone through so many owners. It's gotten here. It's like buying, you know, like a good used car. It's gonna have miles on it, you know. You're gonna look at some spots and be like, yeah, she's an oldie, but she's a goodie and she's made a lot of people happy. And I think boards like that are kind of special.
It
Yeah,
gives it
I love them.
character. Yeah, you know, it's interesting that I keep trying to ask you, what's your like first normie mechanical keyboard, and then I just keep digging up some wild shit,
yeah,
which is super fun.
I have a slight problem with normie boards. I don't have very many of them.
I guess we can. sort of
Oh
tell.
no, how
I think-
unfortunate.
The next one after the rain was Bliss TKL.
Okay.
Super cursed group buy,
I
super
re-
expensive.
Yeah, what was that?
Um,
Was that like the? Shoot, I can't remember it.
I think it's inspired by the montage, with the like accent on the back, and then it's O-ring and F13 and pink and has
Okay,
so it
was
inlaid
pink. Okay.
materials. Yeah,
Okay.
it was pink. I think you can
I
see it
remember
on the
seeing
camera.
it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I see it
you have
way there
seen
in the
it, I
corner.
think. Yeah.
To everybody listening to to this podcast, please consider subscribing to the video only podcast for the low price of $69 a minute.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna explain it a little bit. It's like a pink board. It's a TKL, pinky TKL, sort of like Korean-ish design. And then it has, I think, on the its Type C blocker is like it's Type C, like cable thingy. It's like on the left side, right? And then it has a small brass piece or something there, right?
It's inspired by that board, but
Okay,
it uses a non-standard PCB, but standard USB alignment on between the nav cluster and alpha cluster.
Oh, that's real.
But on the bottom, so you can't use any PCBs in it.
Sounds really nice.
But yeah, it was my first.
I bet you could get a Heine PCB in there because he has a variant with the USB port on the opposite side.
Oh, it does. Maybe that
Yeah,
works.
instead of the top, he has one on the bottom. I doubt you can still buy them, but at peak Heine times, when he offered like 8 different PCB options, that was one of them. You always had the option of top USB or bottom USB before we had daughter boards.
Yeah. No.
Oh, that's the good old time. That's basically how my gun came,
Oh.
which is also a terrible sausage custom. Don't get that. But that's also top USB and impossible to get today.
I mean, what are we
Yeah.
gonna do when all these PCBs die on us?
We hit up Cipulot. custom PCBs made for everything.
Absolutely, we just go balling everywhere. Cipulot, this weird Logitech mouse switch died. Can I get it in Topra, please? I want
You
domes.
figure it out.
I want 95 gram BKE super heavies, please.
Yeah.
He'll make it happen, right? He's the PCB magician.
He's really
I mean,
ambitious.
he did make the Topra PCB for the Illuminati ISO just out of nowhere, just for fun, with no affiliation. He just put it out and like sent me one. Well, technically, James, you sent me one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he also made the debated PCB, both PCBs, and is also making the 21XX PCBs, right?
Yeah. It's like
Oh,
He's
Cipulot is doing the
pretty cool.
21XX.
yeah, the PCB for it.
Yes.
Oh.
I had known him for ages, so I just naturally hit him up, and he was down to do it.
Okay, well,
Somebody's
that's
phone
a-
is about to ring.
That's a great segue into my next segment, which is like what got you into designing keyboards? So
I think it was the community I was active in. There
what
were a lot
community
of.
was that?
It was the Glarses community.
Okay.
The amazing community right there. But we were. I was a moderator there, if you don't know.
Okay.
And other moderators and active people in that Discord were very design centric for
Mhm.
for being a creator Discord, I would say at
Yep.
that time.
Yep.
So we had lots of people making interesting boards, and I got inspired by like all the wacky boards I had acquired, like the Corn and the Rain, and wanted to make my own thing that was equally cursed and amazing.
Yep. So how did you end up being a moderator in the Glarsis Discord?
Honestly, can't remember. I
Who,
think.
who did you have to bribe to get there?
I think he hit me up himself. I was pretty active
Okay.
before and got into the Discord pretty early.
Mhm.
Were you there at the end when he shut it down and everybody came running into the Black Simon Discord?
Yeah, maybe. I didn't post the invite link, but I was there when it happened and tried to control the chaos. But it
For those of
evolved
you
quickly.
that are not familiar with the lore, like I have a Discord. This is not an invitation to join it. I don't care. But a while back, I don't remember how long. It's got to be like 2021,
Last year.
2022. No.
That was
older.
ages ago.
So Glarsis had his like whole Discord server, and then one day just decided, screw it, I'm gonna shut it down with no warning. And then everybody was just sitting around roaming until we noticed like 1,000 people have like walked into the Black Simon Discord server. But you know what? Since then, we've helped a lot of people out. I think it's been a net positive.
Yeah, a lot of the active people come from that. I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's I mean, seeing all the old Glarsis stuff. I mean, I get where the design, aspect comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the huge the battleship board that he made for somebody,
Oh yeah,
or like the 3 keyboards that he built together, and it's kind of crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
so you got started there. What was your first like proper keyboard design, and how did you create that?
My first idea that I had was a plateless FRL in 2020. I had this idea.
Based.
So I started designing that. I think I got the idea after seeing the Lim KB on some Korean forum. It's like a 2011 FRL keyboard in acrylic, and I just wanted something like that, but modern. Back then there were like 2 relatively up-to-date FRLs, and they were not obtainable at all. So I had this idea to make a super cheap FRL for myself and some friends. Made a design, like 10 iterations, everything is ready for production, but then I decided that I wanted to run it through my keyboard, and yeah.
MyKeyboard.eu.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
and things kind of halted.
I think
But,
that's an understatement, ain't
Hmm?
That's an understatement, ain't it? But things halted a bit.
Yeah, after a while they shut down, but this was like 2 years before that as well.
Okay.
But yeah, later I got that made, and it's currently what I'm typing on. But I never got the PCB for it. So it's using like a standard FRL PCB and a plate. So my first design never got really realized.
Is that the Northkin?
Yeah, the Northkin.
Oh.
Or foreskin or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, I saw the board in person. It was really fun to type on, I would say. Really interesting. But then also the Cycle 7 came along, right?
Yeah, the Cycle 7 kind of halted it even more.
There was... So... I think we got kind of inundated with FRLs. And I say that as like the primary spokesperson that was pushing everybody to make more FRLs. Like I was talking to every like designer / maker. I'm like, bro, make an FRL, make an FRL, or I will. Here is an FRL design. If nobody makes an affordable FRL by this date, I will fucking make one with Gion. And then like all the FRLs came out. We got like
I think it's time for it to come back, right? It's almost time to bring it back.
No, it's big board. It's big board year. It's big board year. Okay.
Of course.
I've got the diversity, they call it the TKL, I don't consider it a TKL, but the diversity TKL on my desk in 9009 variant. That's fucking amazing. I love that. I can't wait for the 21XX. I can't wait for Cipulot to make his full Topra Hyper 7, of which there will only be 2 units, and no, nobody else gets one, fuck you. I can't wait for shit like that, okay? That's what I'm interested in. Because there's been so many FRLs, that's the thing. Like, you can go right now and, like, pick up a decent FRL for, like, $150. And by decent, I mean, like, real fucking good by, like, 2020 standards. Right? But when it comes to, like, big boards, they kind of just fit into, like, 3 categories for me. Either, like, they're really nice, but, like, the price point makes no sense to anybody that, isn't a king. The second category is the price is affordable, but it's real sussy. And then you've got the third, which is like the price is okay, like about where it should be, and the quality is all right. And that third bit is what we've been missing for a while, where I just like people underestimate the allure of large boards, but at a good price is the thing.
Well, we've seen big boards coming back, right? All the 100% that are coming back, and then now even bigger, sort of, right?
It's smaller than a full size, but yeah.
But it's got a solenoid,
a 5-head and a solenoid, and
well,
lots
I mean,
of
it's
baller features.
Yeah, I mean, it's meant to be a battleship. And even though it may not be like super long like a full size, I consider it a big board. Who wouldn't?
Yeah. Talking about...
I mean, speaking of, let's just talk about 21XX a little bit. Do you want to tell us the inspiration behind the board? Like, what is...
Yeah, sure thing. The inspiration from that also came from a Korean forum / Desk480 as well, later. I'm not sure if you guys have seen them, but people have done chop jobs where they take G80 2100s, usually, and chop off the numpad to make an Unsaver-esque Sherry board. And the first time I saw that...
There's very poor people that will do that to make a standard Model M into an SSK, when SSK prices were, like, insane.
Yeah, most of the 2100s that were modded like that were scuffed in some way, so they were kind of rescued. And when I first saw one of those boards, I was, like, amazed, because I had never imagined a cherry board with that layout before. Because 2100s in themselves are pretty rare to see, and to see someone mod one like that, I was fascinated.
So they just got a case, replacement case, and then chop off the PCB?
No, you chop the case. So what you do, so imagine your board is like 10 units long. You chop off like the very like end of one side, like and you put that aside, and then you take out a huge chunk. That chunk would traditionally be the numpad. You remove that entirely. it's not a real PCB in a lot of these boards that are modified. It's usually just membrane, so you can fold it over or cut it. But if it is a PCB, generally it's okay. And then you take that end cap and you find a way to fuse it back, so you kind of have that curvature. I've seen it done really well. Yeah, I've seen it done really well, but on average, it's done okay because it's a hard job to do.
It's very, very common to see on old Korean forums. It's like the beginning of the hobby. It was all the rage. So if you search for saver, it's where the word saver comes from. You can find a lot of images of all kinds of vintage boards modded like that on like KBD Mania and OTD. And they're all amazing. Usually the PCBs are hand-wired with a custom controller, like the Icon. And they seem to work great for what they are. But yeah, that's the inspiration for the 21XX. And of course the original Unsaver as well. The IBM1.
But then what was the inspiration behind the solenoids?
I like loud keyboards.
Let's go! He said it! He said it!
No, but IBM boards probably, and some. I read about cherry boards that had like beepers in them.
Oh, yeah.
I think some one case have them, but they sound horrible. They sound like a bird chirping usually, like squeaking. So I wanted something like that, but nicer. And people raged about solenoids back then, so I added a solenoid.
Is it a big solenoid?
No,
Right
it's a
there.
really small one. It's
okay.
You can't really do much bigger ones without complicating things a lot.
Yeah, you need to have like a carrier board for them, capacitors to be able to hold enough charge if you're going to go with a higher voltage. And generally, you're going to want two solenoids so they can alternate, because your trigger time is not going to be fast enough on a larger solenoid. But it's all feasible, and I can't wait for the first person to do that. Give me 24-volt dual solenoids on a keyboard, and like put that keyboard in my hand, sir. I will give you $1,000, whoever you are, as long as it's not like literally two solenoids taped onto like a membrane belt. Like whoever does this first has the right to charge so much money, because it's an experience that I don't think anybody can get. It's like, it should be closest feeling to a typewriter, because 24-volt solenoids get real big.
Yeah, I thought about increasing the size of the solenoid between the very first prototype and the next one, but I already had issues with them not functioning correctly when typing too quickly and having double actuations and stuff like that. Because I think they either overdraw power over USB or overheat and just stop working for a few seconds. And I hated that. So I decided to just keep them small and upgrade the PCB.
That sounds like a problem Cipulot would have been able to solve.
Maybe.
Sounds like time for another round of prototypes.
No.
Already.
How deep in are you prototypes wise, including
Cost-wise?
I don't need an exact cost, just like how many units in you are.
I've gotten 2 prototypes made myself for stupid cheap, I can say. And then the PCBs are the main cost, because I like to pay people fairly. And then the third prototype was stupid expensive as well, but I didn't have to pay for that out of pocket, luckily, since Canon Keys graciously offered to pick the project up.
Okay.
Very nice. Very cool.
But myself, I think I'm like 3-4K deep in prototypes.
Yeah, that's
very
about
fair
right for
a board like that.
Yep, that's about right for a board that size. For anybody listening, yes, that is truly what it should cost to actually like prototype a project. Because if you design it and you manufacture it and it gets to your hands and you think it's perfect, well, maybe it's perfect for you, but don't try selling it. There was one thing that you brought up, Pontus, which was paying PCB designers fairly. That's something I'd like to talk about. And, in the essence of this podcast and us just being good keyboard friends, like, let's actually talk numbers. Let's tell people what it means to pay a PCB designer fairly. And like the numbers can be different for different people. Like a project that I'd work on, for example, like if I had the means and it was a project that had a margin on it as opposed to like a not-for-profit project, I'd probably throw like $500 to $1,000 to the PCB designer and then give them 2% of the profit from the bottom line. Is generally what I would consider like fair. What do you think, Pontus? What do you consider fair?
For a public project, I have roughly the same guidelines. Of course, it depends on the complexity. 21XX is a pretty complex PCB with a lot of requirements. So around there, and yeah, I think they should get paid for like each unit as well. Maybe the percentage-wise, it's hard to say because profit margins vary so much.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'd like to see them get all the profits from the PCB sales at least, and maybe a few $20-30 from the board per unit. To be fair, because the PCB it's the brain of the keyboard, and it's pretty integral that it functions correctly. So you have to pay people to do a good job, and so that they can value their own time.
Yeah, but to put that into perspective, if again for people listening, if you as a maker are basically taking $20 of each sale and giving it to the PCB designer, this is basically an explanation for people that look at some PCB designs of, you know, some more complex stuff and look at a $55 or a $60 PCB and they're like, this is a real expensive PCB. Yeah, sure it is. And maybe the cost of production for the PCB at, let's say, 150 MOQ for like at TKL is maybe like, I don't know, $12, $13, maybe $18 all in, right? But work still had to happen. There were rounds of prototyping. Things went wrong. Firmware needs to be written. A lot of shit needs to be done. So like I'm just putting this out there because like I'm usually the voice of, oh no, expensive things are bad. Watch out. Don't pay too much for stuff. But like understand that PCB designers put in a lot of work. PCB designers should be paid fairly. And if you're thinking about doing a keyboard design, you need to understand that, you know, you can't just take all the money and put it in your pocket. You can't just, you know, get free labor. You need to, if you're going to make any sort of margin whatsoever, you need to be paying a decent amount to your PCB designer. Support your local Cipulot is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
True.
I 100% agree. It's a different matter for like small quantity private friends and family boards that are like for the community, of course. But that depends on the PCB designer as well, what they're open for, and
Yep.
if they're
Yeah.
ready
Yep.
for that kind of work.
I
It's
mean,
not something you should expect.
Of course not. It's something you would be offered. Like, for example, I wanna work on my next Illuminati project, and generally, I don't have any margin on it. So like, I already have two major PCB designers. I have Gondo, excuse me, and I have, shoot, who was the second one? Okay, let's pretend I just have one because I can't remember. I can't remember which of two guys it was. But they offered to do the PCB design for free, which is fine for a project that's not making any money. But these are people that typically would be paid that sort of amount, you know?
Yep.
I forget what my
Yeah.
point was.
Your point was when you run away with a McLaren, be sure to buy one for them too. I
Yeah,
think it's
they
what you're
deserve
saying.
a McLaren
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So 2 McLarens, yeah.
But for reference, I recently got approached by a person willing to design a PCB for one of my projects that
Mhm.
didn't have a PCB, but due to my stance on like designers having the right to profit for their work,
Yep.
if they want it, I couldn't accept it, because if I want to profit of my design, the PCB designer should profit from it as well. So if they like just offer their work for free, I can't live with that.
True.
All right,
That's a very good message.
Yep,
It's
that
a
makes
very
you
based message.
a good keyboard maker, which is real hard in this day and age. I mean, to be fair, there's plenty of good keyboard makers, you know.
Yeah.
Just
And
like
some would
when
even
James
argue he's a
asked,
good keyboard
yeah.
friend.
"What's that?"
Some would even argue he's a good keyboard friend.
Oh, for sure.
Surely.
But like James had brought up like how are like group buys these days. I'm like, you know what? It's pretty good, but you know, there's a lot of projects out there these days, and a lot of makers, a lot of people like in the hobby. It's a lot bigger than it used to be, and there's a lot of good stuff. There's also a lot of shitty stuff, you know. But as the hobby gets bigger, there's more and more good stuff, you know. I think that's pretty cool.
You know, I think the hobby's in a very good place right now. Maybe MOQ wise, it's a bit difficult, but like the
I think MOQ
spirit
wise
of the community.
I think MOQ wise, we're exactly where we should be. We're like silly or stupid projects that are supposed to be niche, stay niche. Projects that should fail, fail. And, you know, even projects that are very mass market, think Angry Meow, stuff like that, they should exist too, because there is a subset, you know, of the community that's super into what we consider normie boards. So, like, I think the ecosystem, all in all, is in a good place.
Yeah, it's just
Speaking
the
of
western part.
Yeah, speaking of the hobby nowadays, I wanted to take us back a little bit because I know you're a big vintage keyboard enjoyer.
Yeah.
And we also have two other very vintage keyboard enjoyers. What's the vintage hobby nowadays? Like, how is it hunting for vintage keyboards?
I'm going to be honest with you. I gave up in like 2019. That was the point at which like I had dreams and aspirations and tried to like buy like OEM boards I could harvest. And I was able to get a few back then. You know, I got like new in box IBM 5140s, harvested the Brown Alps out of those. Got a hold of a Zenith board for neon greens, but in the end I didn't end up harvesting it. It went to somebody else. But these I haven't even tried because it's just been so absurd for so long. Maybe the prices are better now.
The prices can be good, but the problem is the people. There are too many people hunting for vintage boards now. So myself, I don't even bother either. I just buy stuff that people send to me if the price is good, and live with that. I'm very lucky to have some great friends that know Life, eBay, and the local auction sites, and let me know if there are any good deals. But I would not bother myself.
Yeah,
I know
I think
Tengus sends me a bunch of deals here and then, but I just
But they
never
all
got
want the
into
sausage stuff.
vintage hunting. I don't know why.
I think the history aspect is more interesting for me, and how the community has like interacted with vintage keyboards throughout its lifetime, because they're very important for like the beginning of the hobby. It's what started the like customizing of keyboards. As I said earlier, it's the like saver kind of customs where people just chopped off vintage keyboards and made them perfect for themselves. And I think it's really interesting to like explore that.
I think like I don't know. I think the past still has a lot of sway. Like you look at like major, even like Switch releases when Gian like redid the modern Nixie basically, and that was huge, right? That was inspired by vintage design, or I guess a vintage design. I don't know. I see a lot of projects these days that draw from like vintage inspirations, which is nice, I guess. And it's not necessarily just like boards that are vintage themed, you know. Shoot, I had a question for Pontus.
What
Anyway.
would you say is like your favorite, like what is like one of your proud collections, you would say? Like from your current vintage.
Mine?
Yeah.
I think it has to be a board I've kept kinda secret for a while. It's a Model F display writer keyboard. So if you're familiar with the Beam Spring display writer keyboard, it's the EU version of that. So they had to change from beam spring to buckling springs due to the DIN standard in Germany or something like that, which made a sliver of time where they produce these compact, huge keyboards that look amazing. Wait, let me 1 second. I can bring it out.
Sure. That sounds very cool, actually. But like again, like I know very little about vintage keyboard. Maybe Tangus, can you educate me a little bit?
I mean, it's the one, yeah. These are exceedingly rare, at least around these parts, because basically all our vintage IT stuff went to the e-waste bin of Europe, that is basically Eastern Europe. And even finding one these days, as things would have it, I do have one sitting out, like in the garage, in shambles, but it is there. It's a gorgeous board, like absolutely one of the best Model Fs, if not the best.
Could you explain a little bit to our audio listeners what it looks like and what's so cool about it?
It's big.
It is very big.
Has a pretty standard layout for a Model F, which is what I love. If you look up an IBM Display Writer Beam Spring keyboard, it's basically that layout, but in buckling spring and ISO and Swedish, which makes it very cool.
Oh, so it's Swedish?
Yeah, I think it's one of two known Swedish versions of this board. The other ones are German.
Oh, I do have a question, because I do have a Danish one sitting out here, and the Danish display writers have some of the absolutely best legends of all keyboard types.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Because basically, if I go out and grab the board, you'll have basically a button that just says SLUT.
Mm-hmm.
I love the SLUT key.
Yeah, so we have a SLUT key, but we also have SIDESLUT.
Oh,
yes. Oh, you have a SLUT key.
I
Do
have
you
a
have a
SLUT key.
SIDESLUT?
I think I have a I have a SIDESLUT, SIDESLUT.
They also should have initialized XXX. I believe in some of them. So like the Scandinavian display writer boards are like the absolutely best. They are the cream.
Yeah,
of the
you guys
crop
are
when it
drawing
comes to-
targets like on your heads. Like Pontus has a 1-of-1 basically keyboard. Tangus has more. All right, I know whose house I'm breaking into
No,
first.
If you
I
want
do
this
have
one,
to detail that
I feel bad
this
for
one
asking
ain't
this
mine.
question.
I am currently the caretaker, because I did have a friend of mine that picked it up. I was like, "We need this stashed ASAP." And
And
I
you've
was
just
like,
been holding
"What yeah, so is this criminal? Well,
It's not mine. I'm holding it for a friend.
So we're figuring out the details of the deal as it is currently right now. But there is for sure 2 Danish Beam Springs display writers and 1 Model F. In that stash, and unfortunately, I do not get to keep the Model F. Or the Beam Spring.
yeah, this one. If you want to steal this one, please take the whole system from my basement as well.
Oh, do you have the whole system?
Yeah,
Oh.
I have. I have everything.
So, the worst
Wait,
part
what?
about mine is the whole lot that it came with,
Mhm.
which is basically a whole multi-composer system with a Selectric typewriter on the side, plus 2 complete display writer systems. So, like, the whole thing is just... It's too good to split. And like that's the worst part. If you care just a smidge about the vintage stuff, is like you don't split the system or the board from the system. Don't do
Yes,
that.
I would.
But
I
that's
would.
also
I would.
how you run out of space.
I would never take a mint functional computer or 2 mint functional computers and literally just pry off the keyboard with a knife and throw the rest in the trash. I would never do that for the brown
Of
elves.
course not. Of course not.
I mean, like, there are boards that I would not do it to. There are boards that I know that are above a certain rarity where, like, it's not that I don't want to hurt them because they're rare or valuable. It's because, like, they're so unique. And I get that. But if there's, like, a board that there's plenty of, it's fine. I'll harvest the shit out of it. I don't feel bad. And I'll split. Like, I don't care. I know that makes me a real bad person. You know, I'd rather harvest the Blue Alps out of an NEC 8800 than have a full system.
Yeah, some boards I would harvest as well, but I try to not buy those boards because it would make me look a certain way. But I thought about getting rid of the system for this one. Yeah, but I prefer buying loose switches, new old stock.
Ooh, okay. I've had bad experiences with that. Like, if I don't harvest them myself, I can't trust it. And I'm talking like high-end Alps and high-end vintage blacks. So like West German, broken in vintage blacks. You never buy new old stock of vintage blacks, but like new old stock for Alps is okay. But I want to be the one to harvest. I want to know where they come from, because it's
I'm not talking
real
about
easy.
Harvested ones. I recently, or maybe 2 years ago at this point, I managed to find some loose replacement linear green Alps.
Those you'll find.
And some like creams. So if I want to do an Alps custom, I'll just use those because those don't have a home.
The issue is when you get into the browns, the neon green tactiles, it's impossible to just buy loose switches.
That doesn't exist.
Long gone. So at that point, you got to do the crimes.
I have a few boards that I might do the crimes to, but not yet. Not yet.
Very cool.
James,
well, I guess
what's
time.
I know Japan, for example, is a nice place to get like cheap AEKs, cheap real forces, like old ones. But how about Taiwan? What's the like actual vintage scene like? If we roll back to like the 1980s, 1990s, what kind of keyboards were they using there? And are those keyboards like visible and available these days?
What vintage scene are you talking about?
So for example,
there's no vintage scene in Taiwan.
Oh no, I'm not talking about the vintage scene. I'm talking about
okay.
Like, for example, you can find Model M's in America, for example, because IBM made them and a lot of people use them, and so they still exist today. And they're in the market. So the question is, what type of stuff would exist in the Taiwanese market? Because in Japan, you find AEKs, you find real forces. What would be like the types of boards that were used back in the day that you can like find like old and used now?
Unfortunately, I think I'm very underqualified to answer this question, as I have not dug into our local
you've never
market.
You've never spotted like a keyboard in like a store, in a little shop, in a window.
I've seen a couple old cherry boards pop up. Well, not really old. They were like 2000s. Not really old. Old for Gen Zs probably. But we've seen a couple of those pop up back in the day. I think they were made here back in the day.
Okay.
You do see some Taihao stuff, like keycaps.
Yes, Taihao.
But
yes.
Other than that, I don't know much about it. Neither is
James,
there
I will tell you
here.
one thing. One thing that is going to be a huge upset, because this is information that a lot of people are not supposed to have.
Okay.
The best clicky Alps in terms of loudness and just ferocity were only made in a specific Taihao Alps board.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can hear the clicks through like concrete walls.
Oh my god.
That's all I'll ever say. They're unicorn
adding a solenoid
boards.
to it. Okay. Well, that has prompted me maybe to look into it a little bit more. Maybe next time I'll have an answer. But yeah, I hope there was a vintage scene here. But unfortunately, like we don't see any vintage boards when I go to meetups, and that's the unfortunate part of it, really.
I think the key is,
I mean,
Taiwan produced them and exported them all. They got rid of them when they were still valuable, and like there's no point in getting them in when they're cheap again.
Yeah. So just think there's not really a market here.
I mean, also keep in mind, like having boards does not a vintage scene make. So when I was in Dubai, that entire country is like 30 years old. There were no keyboards 30 years ago. It was sand, right? But there is a vintage scene because there were people that were interested in collecting and importing and categorizing and like taking care of like and refurbishing boards, you know? That's what makes the vintage scene happen. You don't necessarily need the boards, you just need people that are interested in the boards to kind of get it going. So James, be the change you want to see in the world.
Be the beige and be the vintage you want to see, I guess.
Buy my boards.
Okay, I like this subtle 21XX plug in there. Yeah, okay. Well, before you go, we have to talk about your render stuff. So if you haven't checked out Pontus's Instagram, you should definitely go check it out. Can you tell us the handle?
It's www_Pontus. No .com or anything at the end.
That's not how you use Instagram.
It works. Pontus was
That's such a
taken
boomer
by
handle,
myself.
man.
Yeah,
That's an amazing handle. It's so good.
I like it.
www_Pontus. You can't ever forget it once you hear it.
No, it's great.
Yeah, so well, tell us a little bit about how you got started in rendering, and yeah, it's super interesting. Like, you guys should all go check it out. It's amazing what he does. But yeah, here's
Thank
the
you.
background story, I guess.
Yeah, I started doing renders when I first started designing boards. First in Fusion, and I was really disappointed because I wanted to do like acrylic renders or something, which Fusion wouldn't do a good job at. So I exported them and started doing Blender renders instead, and realized how easy it was, and just continued rendering my own designs at the start, and then posted them in the communities I was active in. And then I think someone, it was either James, AKB James, or Glarses, noticed them and wanted me to do something for a project they had, which made it kind of like official. And I think the first like proper commission I got that made me like dedicate my time to the renders was the AKB OGR group
Yes.
where I got tasked to render like the product listing images, which became the thing I kind of specialized in, basic boring renders. After that, I just continued. I mostly render my own stuff and post it on Instagram, but sometimes I do like commissions for other people. And I have this weird, or had this weird obsession with realistic renders, because it was kind of meme at that point that renders had more scuffs and dirt than photos. So I wanted to embrace that and make
Okay,
my
so
renders.
that actually brings up a question that I've got. So like, I know other people that do some render work, and like I've talked to them while they were doing something unique, like trying to render like a character set that doesn't even exist. What's the longest? What's the most amount of work you've put into a single render image? Walk me through it.
A single render image. Do you want me to share the render? Let me see.
Yes, to all the people listening to the podcast, we're gonna
Show
give
them
you
the render,
we're-
yeah.
we're going to give you an audio representation of the render. You just got to pull up your spectrographs and you'll be able to see the image.
I think it was a series of renders. I can DM them to you. It was, I wanted to add realistic switches to my render.
Oh, that is hard.
Oh.
I sent the Instagram one to Simon.
Okay, so the render, anybody that's
And
listening to
James.
the audio episode is on Pontus's Instagram, and it was posted on July 6th, 2023.
Yeah, I wanted to do nice looking switches.
With switch
Which was-
films.
With switch films and
Very
like
cool.
Sherry logos and lube on the stabilizers and dust in the lube and an accurate PCB. And this
Oh
was
yeah,
kinda
I can see the traces on the PCB.
Yeah, this there were some people that had done it before, of course, but I think I was the first person to add a lube to my rendered stabilizers. and I had to figure out how to make it look decent, which took like a week or two, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. In recent memory though, it was not a singular render, but I spent a lot of time on the GMK Cosmos renders. If you guys have seen those.
It's like
Recently.
a black keycap, but with a lot
Yeah.
of specs in the keycap material.
Specs that basically look like dust if you go
Mhm.
far away. People have recently started doing the GMK effects for
The
their
GMK
keycap
Coom
sets.
effects.
Oh
as
God,
Simon-
I hate the GMK effects.
Glitter effects. So that's probably my most complex render series, because I spent like a month perfecting the size so that the effect is visible in all renders, or most renders, because like it's something that's really annoying. Because I use Instagram for my renders usually, and Instagram has awful compression.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
especially with the color red.
Yeah, and the noise, and basically all keyboard detail ends up being noise, which gets obliterated by the resolution. So for Cosmos, I had to like perfect the size and adjust it for each render slightly, so you see that it doesn't get bigger if you go further away, but you can still see it. Which was a
Interesting.
pain in the ass.
Why
And
not-
then also
Why not? Why not like self-host or have like higher resolution images available for like your nicer Instagram renders? Because I'm sure a lot is being wasted, being displayed so small.
because no one would look at them. I make renders for people to look at, and
Mhm.
usually people look at the renders either on Instagram or product pages, and neither of those have very high resolution images.
Yeah, and
people
as
don't
somebody
care.
that's like that annoys me because like think of any other product that like we would go and buy, a product that like we don't own yet. So like we want to see what it looks like, right? You're on Amazon, you're on whatever shop, right? You want to be able to like get the clearest details of like all the parts, right? As anybody trying to buy anything. It's so weird that people don't do this. Like what? Like when I see like a little picture and I can't zoom it any bigger, I get real upset. I'm like, you want me to pay $600 for this? Can I see it, please?
Yeah, it's tough finding a balance, because usually I render in stupid high resolution, like 8K.
And then it ends
So
up being like 1K by 1K.
Yeah. So I want, if I make my renders look good at 8K, it's really easy. I just have to add the detail, which is like a texture or a geometry node setup and like some models. But if I want that detail to scale good at 1K by 1K, I have to like make it not look good on 8K.
Yeah, otherwise
So
it's
like
just gonna show up as noise on something that small.
Yeah, it's a really odd balance, and making something that works at like all resolution is very difficult, which is why
Okay. So
I
what you're
adjust it
saying
for
is
the most common resolution.
so you optimize for low res viewing because unfortunately that's the reality we live in.
Yeah, basically.
That's where
Oh.
the people go. That's where the normies go, I guess.
Hmm.
There's no good alternative. Yeah.
Re-
Nobody wants
normies.
to download a photo for 10 minutes and then watch it, view it,
No.
right?
Well, come
Except
on,
the average
James.
Black Simon we are.
Come on. I feel personally attacked for like actually caring about stuff.
Indeed.
Am I the only one that like cares about shit in this hobby?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty much.
I feel like nobody else cares. They're just like, yes, screw me, like bend me over, screw me harder, charge me more, put all the phobes in it, fucking remove all the features, make it stupid, make it screwless, fucking make the renders terrible for everyone. Don't even show the product images. You know what? Fuck you. Pay us in advance. And everybody's just like, yeah, sign me up, baby. I love this. This is the keyboard hobby. Let's go.
I mean, having tried to learn Blender, I can absolutely see why people don't give a shit. Like, that thing is...
Well, no, it's people that are viewing it. It doesn't take effort to look at a thing. That's literally all people do nowadays is look at a thing.
Not true that, but then again, just aim for the lowest denominator and you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Because, like,
Well, yeah.
and even games
But
for the sale...
it's just it's a disappointment point, you know, like how they try to make like bear-proof trash cans at national parks, but if they make them too bear-proof, people are too stupid to be able to use them. That's basically the same thing, but in the keyboard hobby, and I don't like that.
I always find it very amusing that you're getting mad on behalf of the guys that actually doing the renders.
Yep.
We
Hey,
like
listen.
the simplicity. Don't make us do more work, please.
I should really
Listen,
just do less work.
the most
trying to
glor-
learn it.
The most
Like,
glorious?
The most glorious thing in the universe, if you're like super into keyboards, is to look at like a nicely done render and just randomly zoom into like a corner of a keycap and you see a little speck of dust and a little PP hair that's there just for me. Oh,
Yeah. If
It's
you want
so
to see
good.
something like that, look at the second pinned post on my Instagram.
there you
That's
go.
a render where I try to make realistic keycaps. So I added PP
Yeah,
hairs,
the PP hair.
sprue marks, and some scuffs here and there. It's mostly memes.
Of course.
And if I were to do this in every render, which I do use the same material in every render, it just disappears completely as soon as you zoom slightly further out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, for those of you listening that don't understand, when we say PP hair, we're jokingly talking about little specks of dust and like cat hair and stuff you have around the house,
Yeah.
not actual PP hairs. Okay. If you zoom into a render and the hairs are like curly and weird, beware.
If the hairs are curly and weird, that's not a render.
Might be.
Oh no! Now Pontus knows.
I might have done a render like that. Maybe. You have to find out yourself.
So you did 2 renders completely by yourself. You didn't like I would say like you learned it completely by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is hope for people out there who are trying to learn rendering to hopefully be one day, you know, can put up some decent images.
No. 2 boxes.
I
Right?
feel
Yeah.
personally attacked, James.
No, I'm
I
saying
try to help people who try to learn because most of my assets I try to create myself. So like a lot of keyboard designs are just for renders. For if someone wants a custom keyboard for a keycap set render, I make it myself. If someone wants blah blah blah, I make it. So all my materials and stuff, I experiment and then develop myself. Something that has become really common in keyboard renders is keyboard render kit,
yes.
which is an amazing plugin or add-on for Blender, which lets you create great keyboard renders with ease. But I personally hate keyboard render kit renders because they all look, or most of them look the same. Some are amazing, of course. But I try to make a point of making like everything myself.
Yep.
So I want to understand my materials and what makes them look like they do.
Hmm.
So I can adjust them for every situation.
Yep. I, for one, can confirm that I have received a lot of help from Mr. Pontus, and I am very grateful for all the help that I have got for rendering, so that now I can render bait, you know, all my fellow friends and make suspicious shit.
It's a great
So
skill
thank you for
to
that.
have. Yeah, no
I
problem.
can also
Yeah,
confirm
we
that
should-
the training given to James was really good.
Hmm?
So I have learned that second hand from Pontus, apparently.
Yeah. I try to help as many people as possible. So if you want Blender help, just send me a DM anywhere and I'll try to respond.
Send him a DM on Instagram, www.pontus.
underscore Pontus.
It's important.
I think the important question is just go, how?
Why?
Oh, why? Yes.
Why renders?
How render?
How renders?
How render?
Help.
Spend let me check how many hours I have. I use Blender on Steam so that I can count how many hours I have. So how, the answer to that is 14,359.4.
Rookie numbers. Gotta pump those numbers up, buddy.
Yeah, a lot of AFK time, of course, but why I get annoyed by bad renders? Of course, my renders aren't the best, but I try to make possible renders for everything I interact with.
Yep.
Because I see a lot of projects that don't get fairly represented due to shitty, either poor attempts at rendering because it's really difficult to start out with, or just like fusion screenshots. And I think people need to realize that showing off the design and sharing it goes further than just sharing a CAD file. Because people want to see how the board will turn out, not just what the design looks like.
Yep. So they want to see how the board will turn out with like PB hair on it when they eventually start using it, right?
In their dirty room and when they get their keyboard all dusty, it's important to get a fair representation of that.
Indeed.
True.
So I guess support your local PCB designer and also your local renderer.
Yeah. I do render commissions.
Support your local keyboard friend.
Yep.
Please do.
All right,
Okay.
I presume, James, that you had a list of questions, right?
Yes.
And I presume that I had no list of questions, but I have a question.
Yeah.
All right,
Go for
Pontus, let's say you've got a budget of $50,000 to design one keyboard, one unit just for yourself. You can do whatever you want. That's your budget limit. What are you making? And it's only for you. And you can choose what you want to do with it. Like if you want to take it to meetups, sure. If you want it like built into your wall, fine. Doesn't matter.
There is a dude here in Sweden that has done custom buckling spring projects. I think my dream would be a custom buckling spring assembly for the 21XX, and then to get the 21XX made in steel, just for the hell of it. Because I don't think it would get much better than that for me.
You're saying the 21XX is like your perfect layout?
Yeah, I've used it for like 4 years daily, and I love it.
Which variant of the layout do you use? Do you use the cross arrows or the 8K arrows?
I use cross arrows.
Based.
I don't have a prototype with the 8K layout.
Okay.
But I prefer the blockers. And then I just love the function keys and the extra F-row. They're great for Blender and just general productivity.
What do? You just map them to like tool hotkeys?
Yeah, I kind of like change them whenever I need it. But the XD macros are bound to like keyboard related functions. So I have like play pause, the solenoid toggle is there, and there are a few little fun functions. But the F-rows I usually bind to like Blender shortcuts I use often. Like if you want to copy something from a project, I have that on an F key.
So you're using all of them, is what you're saying? Is
not
every
all of them.
single? Oh
No.
Oh no! You got to do right now. You got to open up Vial or V or whatever you're using and map the rest. You can't have unmapped keys on a battleship
They're mapped.
that you designed.
They're just bound to like F24, which has no function in Windows.
Okay, well, you're halfway there.
Yeah, the current PCB or the old PCB has an issue with the memory as well, because the firmware is pretty big, so you can't have that many macros on it, but that's being fixed for the next one.
Yep, I remember running into that issue, running out of macro space real quick.
Yeah, you can't really fit 14 macros. quite easily. I think the upper limit on the current PCB is like 5, which is nothing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'd love to own like an OG custom keyboard, but that isn't something that I make myself.
What are we talking? Like CL? Are we talking KMAC 1, KMAC 2? How?
I think a CL
Okay.
356. But the problem is that they don't have ISO, which is kind of necessary for me. So I guess I'd spend that 50,000 or the 10,000 that's over on a custom PCB that has ISO support.
They have them. There's plenty of CL like layout PCBs available.
Oh yeah, maybe I'll just get one of those then.
Yeah, I want to say McLovin.
They have, yeah, I think they have one, but I'm not sure if it's compatible with the OG parts.
And I want to say, no, there's like a couple. There's a few people that have done it, that have like redone them, because I think the difference between the Corsa PCB and the CL PCB is not massive.
No, they all share the same PCB basically.
Yeah.
I know that Gondo is working on something, or was working on something, and a few other people have done PCBs, but they're usually ANSI only.
Oh yeah, don't talk to Gondo about ISO. He'll lose it.
Yeah.
All right, wait. Then what are you doing with the rest of the CL build? What plate? What switches? What caps?
PC a half plate with MX Browns and there's Swedish Olivetti die subs for the caps.
Based.
No, if I get to rob people for the parts.
Based.
Wait, how do you even get that key set?
Crimes.
Yeah, crimes. I think there are 2 or 3 known examples, and they're like all in Russia, so I would have to do some crimes to get them.
A little
Unless I
exfiltration.
Yeah. But that's my dream keycap set. I love Olivetti and blue.
Olivetti's great. I've only ever attempted to design, in very big air quotes, one key set, and that was a Olivetti blue Greek Sublegends set. I might have a picture. I'll send it to you guys just so you guys can check it out. It was real simple. I worked on it with Jengled ages ago, and eventually I abandoned the project. But like, I love that blue.
Yeah, the blue is amazing, and the gray alphas and gray mods they just do something for me. I got a set of Italian Olivetti double shots that I rotate between all my boards because I just love them.
Oh my god, that sounds so nice.
Yeah, the problem is the price. Luckily, the Italian ones are pretty cheap, but they're not the most common.
That's really cool. Okay, I guess before we go, we have one last segment, which is a shout out to a good keyboard friend. So this is sort of a unique segment that we like to include every episode, which is just basically shouting out to a good keyboard friend that has been nice to you in the keyboard hobby, or can just be your normal friend as well. So I think Pontus has a name for this today. I'd like to shout out AKB James, aka British James. Nice.
He has helped me and motivated me a lot during like over 6 years at this point to design and just interact with the hobby. He's also helping me push the 21XX to group buy and hooked me up with Canon keys. And he's just great at everything. He's great if you want design help or just want a nice keyboard design. He has tons. So I ask him questions very, very often about designing and everything, basically.
A very based individual.
Yeah.
I would also like to shout out AKB James, because there can only be one James, and we need to find it out.
There are a few too many James in the hobby.
I second the motion. AKB James has always been a very, very good lad. You know, his AKB OGR. The inception of that board was a contest that we ran called OG Summer back in the day, where I financed out of my pocket a full prototyping for whoever could like make the coolest like OG themed board, and James made the OGR. This was like back in like 2018, I think, or 2019 for like the original prototyping, and then it turned into a real project, and James grew and used basically, I don't know, he used his skills, his love for the hobby to get better at this, to get stronger at this, to start teaching people, to start helping people. And it's nice to see that when you invest in a good keyboard friend, that good keyboard friend just creates more good keyboard friends over the years. And we should all be as helpful and as supportive as James. We should all be open to the concept of helping each other. This is a hobby, and a lot of people see this hobby as, you know, a business or an industry, and sure, it kind of is that, but at the end of the day, sometimes you just need to be a good keyboard friend.
Indeed. And on that note, I guess we're gonna see you next episode. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.